What's up, Texas fans? Recruit through the whistle, right? Josiah Sharma, 4-star defensive tackle out of Folsom High, California, just announced on social media he has flipped his commitment from Oregon to the Texas Longhorns. That's why we call it Recruit Through the Whistle. I'm here by myself right now. CJ Vogel's going to join in. This is one of those special live streams we do. We don't do these very often, but when Josiah Sharma flips to Texas and becomes the first defensive lineman to commit to the Texas Longhorns, that's a big deal. So I know this is going to excite Texas fans. Obviously, Josiah Sharma showed up in Austin today, along with Antonio Coleman, another 4-star D lineman who's committed to Alabama at Saraland High, plays with KJ Lacey. But Josiah Sharma, there you see the tweet from our great producer, Matthew. Josiah Sharma has flipped his commitment from Oregon to Texas. And the backstory with this is this was a tough recruitment for the Texas staff because the night before he initially committed to Oregon, he had committed to Texas. Alabama knew he was going to Texas. The schools recruiting him knew he was going to Texas. He had even given quotes to people in our industry saying he was going to Texas. Then the next day, he ended up committing to Oregon, but now he gets back on campus. This was his third visit to Austin, by the way. His mom made all those trips, and Josiah Sharma has committed to the University of Texas, flipping his commitment from Oregon. The first defensive line commitment for the Texas Longhorns. He becomes the 16th commitment overall for the Texas class. And look, this is a great first defensive lineman. I know Matthew's going to play the huddle here pretty soon, but I'm one of the people that believes Josiah Sharma, and I've been on this one a while, just my opinion of him, he's one of the top defensive linemen in the country. I don't have any doubt. He reminds me of Shawn Rogers. I think that's where his upside can go. I know that puts a lot of pressure on people, or I'm sitting out there on a limb, but I really believe that Josiah Sharma has Shawn Rogers' upside. Here's his junior huddle at Endercrum, Sacramento area. He is now at Folsom High, was there for a spring, and will be there for his senior season. But Josiah Sharma at 6'4", 310, 315, he has a rare blend of first step, second step quickness, strength and power on contact, and ability to close on the football. And he does this as a raw prospect. He has a long way to go technically as you watch him. His stance is not as consistent as it will be, but I'm just here to tell you, but his size with that quickness, it's not just quickness, it's the ability to close on the football, squeeze down the line of scrimmage. He's not just an A-gap player, okay? This guy can make plays down the line of scrimmage. He can line up over the ball. He can line up at 3-tech. This is one of the very best defensive linemen in the country. He garnered offers from everybody. A one-time Washington commitment who made 3 visits to Alabama after Kalen DeBoer took that job and Courtney Morgan left to take that GM role with Alabama. But Josiah Sharma flips his commitment to the University of Texas. And as our McDonald 86 said, yeah, Texas really needed this commitment. This gets the ball rolling for Texas on the defensive line. This morning it was very interesting. We knew there was a couple of guys that were going to pop in. Interesting thing was Myron Charles, who is a FSU commitment, was also scheduled to be on campus today, but he ended up canceling that visit. He actually sent me a text this morning during Coffee and Football that was kind of cryptic. And then when I did a little research on it, he actually did cancel his visit. But look, Texas isn't going to back off these guys. This is what we've been saying about Steve Sarkisian and this staff. My term's back, guys. Recruit through the whistle. That's what you do. You don't walk away from the guys you think are the best. This guy's an NFL future if he does it right. One of the top defensive linemen in the country. Again, Josiah Sharma has flipped his commitment from Oregon to the University of Texas. He put that out on social media a few minutes ago. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to comment on what you guys' questions are. I'm just going to make some comments here, so give me a little bit of time here. E. Kim says, I'll still take Antonio Coleman. Yeah, absolutely right. Antonio Coleman's committed to Alabama from Saraland High. He was on campus today. with KJ Lacey. I'm quite sure Texas would take Antonio Coleman if he actually wanted to flip his commitment. A lot of people are asking, what are you talking about? What does this mean for Myron Charles? We'll see on that. Look, Myron Charles from the state of Florida, Port Charlotte, was a long-time FSU lean. That recruitment's a little different, but again, he was scheduled to be on campus today as well, and did not make it in. So Texas won't give up on Myron Charles. That's not the way Steve Sarkisian and the staff recruits. And in fact, they may be a little more motivated than ever right now at a couple of positions. So this is, just going down. I'm wearing a Duck Camp hat. It's not making fun of Oregon. We have a sponsor there with Duck Camp, so nobody make the Oregon jokes. But there should be a few members in this chat that are kind of happy about this. Ivory Martin, here he goes. Top 5 class on the way. I don't think anything's changed for Texas. A long way until December. Texas has momentum. They have NIL. They're in the SEC. They had 11 guys drafted. This is a staff that doesn't give up on top targets. So that is just something to keep in mind here as I go down, again, this list of you guys' comments. Guy McPhail says, giddy up. There you go. Here's Nathan says, this was take the offer or leave it down the 40. Charles should have made the trip. Look, I don't know. I think Texas will stay on their other targets. Myron Charles, they're going to stay on these guys. Zion Williams, Texas isn't going to back off these top targets. This is just not going to happen with Steve Sarkisian and this staff. We've had a few. Does it help with Myron Charles? We'll have to see. Somebody's mentioning DJ Sanders in this chat now. We'll see what happens with DJ Sanders. Obviously, A&M, Texas, Michigan, the 3 schools with DJ Sanders. But look, and I've said this, guys. I mean, Josiah Sharma, I think DJ Sanders has upside as a prospect. I think Josiah Sharma has, to me, just totally different level. And that's not a knock on DJ Sanders. I think Sharma is going to be quicker to get there. So I think Josiah Sharma is a big time prospect. I know, CJ, you just left. Nobody saw Sharma. You saw him come in. Nobody saw him leave.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Gerry. I mean, and we didn't get a real chance to see him walk in, right? He was kind of, dropped off right in front of Moncrief. He only had about a 5-foot walk into the facility, but they made sure that he got in. And I think that getting picked up from the airport, getting dropped off right there in front of the doors at Moncrief, I think the staff made quick work, right? I mean, it wasn't too early in the morning for him when he arrived here in Austin to see that the news comes around 7:20, 7:25 tonight. I think that little dead period gave him a lot to think about. Because, again, when you go back and look at where things were trending and, some of the word behind the scenes in which we expected Texas to be the favorite for Josiah Sharma on the day of his announcement, I think that 4 weeks since the decision, it's a lot of nights there that you got to sit there and think, did I make the right decision? Am I headed to the right spot? Texas, obviously, today got it over the top and pulled the flip.
Yeah, Alan says, who broke this? Josiah Sharma broke that on his own Twitter, but that's how that happened. A couple other questions here. Here's Emmanuel Villafranco. Sharma's measurable 6'4", 310, 315, 320-ish, in that range. He just reminds me of Sean Rogers, guys. He really does. Ivory Martin. Now, this is where we get excited, right? Who would need to be added for this DL class to have the best DL class in the nation? That won't happen. That's going to be Georgia. They have like 4 or 5-star guys in their state, and they're going to get 3 of them probably. So
it didn't take long for that to become the conversation, right?
No, Georgia's going to have the number 1 D-line class in the country unless something really crazy happens. They just have too much talent in that state, in the Peach State this year, and Georgia's going to win the majority of those battles in this class and recruit nationally on top of it. By the way, J.J. Hahn will be on campus tomorrow from Rancho Santa Margarita. Zane Petty, we'll have some fun with that. He wouldn't know anything. He thought Kelvin Banks was a guard. Give me a break. All right, let's see. We'll keep going with this. Is Sharma 3? Zane Petty asks, is Sharma a 1 tech or a 3 tech? Look, he can play over the ball. That's obvious. He can also play 3 tech. That's what makes him, to me, such a high-level prospect. Josiah Sharma has first, second step quickness. He has the ability to be a disruptor with size. And then at the same time, once he learns techniques, the technique gets stronger in a college program, he can play over the ball and be a load over the ball as well. So I think that's what makes Sharma one of the top defensive line prospects in this class, is his ability, the versatility along the defensive line, because I think he can play. I think he can play the 0-1, the tilt, or the 3. I think he can do it both with equal effectiveness.
Yeah, and I think that's why you saw such success with the Texas defensive line a year ago with Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat. You could swap either of those over the nose at 3 or even out to a 5. We saw that at times with T'Vondre Sweat. I'm not saying that you're going to see that with Josiah Sharma, but just that interchangeability on the defensive line. We've talked about versatility at receiver and defensive back all the time this cycle, Jerry. To have that inside your defensive line, inside the tackles, very important. Switches up looks, switches up the twists, the stunts, makes things very difficult for opposing offensive linemen. This is massive. Again, the athleticism, the BGO, we talk about all the time with elite edges. To have that on the interior, that's what made Byron Murphy so special. That's a guy right there, Josiah Sharma, that has great BGO as well.
So Ryan said, did this just come down to Texas deciding to increase their offers to recruits? Look, I think here's one thing I'll say about this recruitment. It was not 48 hours after he committed that I was told that some people around him said, hey, keep recruiting him. This might have been too quick of a decision. Maybe should have backed this decision up a little bit. But here, let's remember this too, guys. Just because he's committed to Texas doesn't mean everybody else is backing off. Alabama's still been recruiting him. Oregon won't walk away. This is recruiting battles. These are national recruiting battles at premium position. But this is a big flip for the timing of it, because that means Josiah Sharma was not committed to Oregon very long. And that means that was a quick look, think back with his circle saying, hold on, did I rush this decision? Again, look, he grew up in Arlington for 2 or 3 years in that Arlington area. I believe if he had stayed there, he'd have gone to either Bowie or Martin High School. But he was in that area for 2-3 years. They still have family in Texas. And so it's not out of the question the mom wouldn't move back to Texas now. We talked about that before. If he had gone to Texas, maybe she moves back to Arlington around family. If he had gone to Alabama, Birmingham was being discussed. So I kind of expect the mom to move close to him in college. But again, big day for Texas, guys. I mean, this is a big one. First defensive line commit in this class on the interior. And now you think about it, CJ, Lance Jackson, Smith Orogbo on the edges. Now you got Sharma on the interior, and you have some big time targets left. Now you still have Myron Charles committed to FSU. You still have Zion Williams, who's committed to LSU. DJ Sanders has not made a pick yet. He should before the start of his senior season. Somebody asked about J.J. Hahn. What is his upside? Look, this is all I can say about J.J. Hahn. J.J. Hahn, the state of Georgia, we just talked about, is loaded at defensive line. Loaded. And Georgia can go recruit nationally as well. They have J.J. Hahn scheduled for an official visit the 7th through 9th of September. So, look, if you're on a Georgia official visit list on the interior D line this year, you're a really high-level prospect. Oregon expected to get Hahn on campus this weekend. That may be more impactful for Oregon now, right? J.J. Hahn was at A&M today. He gets to Texas. That visit will begin at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Then he'll fly to Oregon for the weekend. So, again, big news here. CJ, let's keep going. Let's also, while we're here, we'll take all the questions, but kind of go through some of the guys you talked to today and just some updates on some of those guys. Let's start with John Turntime.
Yeah, absolutely. I had just stopped talking with John Turntime. I had gotten in the car, was going to make the drive from campus back to my apartment, and then by the first light, we saw the news of Josiah Sharma. So big news, obviously, for Texas there. But Texas also made good headways again with John Turntime. I think he mentioned today it's been visit number 6 for him to Austin. I think he also mentioned that, Gerry, that he's been to Texas more than anywhere else.
Yes.
And so looking ahead today, he has a great relationship with with Coach Flood. He's got a great relationship with Coach Sarkisian. That Texas staff has done a great job making him feel like a priority. Also, a lot of family members moving into the Austin area as well. His sister will enroll at the University of Texas. He has another sister at Hudson Tillotson in the Texas or the Austin area as well. So plenty of family inside of Austin at the moment. Plenty more to come here soon. He might be next up as well. But you see there on the tweet that I put out, he might be seeing Texas up to 3 times, potentially even 4, because I would expect Texas A&M is going to try to get him on campus for that final game of the season against Texas in November. But he wants to get up to Michigan. He wants to see Texas play and host Georgia, and then he wants to get to the Cotton Bowl to see Texas and Oklahoma face off in Dallas. So Texas is doing a great job. He said one note that I did find very funny is said he hadn't played the College Football 25 video game, Gerry, but he did get one game. And in that one game, the team that he chose was Texas. So maybe nothing there, but it was pretty funny. He laughed it off with us, as we were talking to him after his visit. I do think Texas is in a really good spot for him early. He wants to make a decision about this time from now in 2025, going into his senior season to wrap things up. So you won't see anything immediate right now. But again, it certainly helps that Texas has had the most visits with him so far. He's been to Austin more than anybody else. He will be at Texas A&M tomorrow to get a look at their pool party. He said their staff is still kind of building that relationship at the moment, but that's another team that's, in the market for John Turntime right now. Texas, really good situation. A&M getting that extra look right now as well. We'll see moving forward.
Yeah, and John Turntime there, you see, he is also one of the great things about Turntime is, and CJ, you may have mentioned this. I was getting a lot of texts right now, but he's up for valedictorian of his class as well. So John Turntime's decision will be a true football academics decision.
Yes.
I think I don't know if you mentioned that. If you mentioned that,
neuroscience.
Yeah. I mean, so he's in not the top 10% of his class. He's in the top 10 of his class, I believe, or he was last time I talked to him, and maybe inside that top 5 with a class with a chance to be the valedictorian. He'll be up for it. So John Turntime, absolutely one of the top 2026 prospects in the country there, who's been to Texas now 5 times since Texas offered the Kansas State game. Again, so Josiah Sharma, guys, has flipped his commitment from Oregon to Texas. That's a huge win for Texas. Now, he's underrated in the rankings nationally, so it may not impact the class ranking, but rankings be damned. Senior year tape, that'll take care of it. He's gonna be a force at Folsom this year. To me, he's a 4-star plus, what I call in the rankings, doing this as long as I have, which to me means he's a top 150 level prospect in the country. So I think that'll probably be reflective of or close to that after his senior year. A lot of times your skill guys are ranked really high. The bigs catch up senior year in the recruiting rankings. So there's David Keith Williams. Hold up. Josiah Sharma is decommitted from Oregon. The bottomless bank athletics department committed to Texas. But look here, hey, let's be real about this though, CJ. These recruitments aren't over until December.
Yeah,
I mean, they aren't over until December. Alabama won't walk away from Sharma. Oregon won't Dan Lanning just going to throw in the towel saying, dang, darn it, man, that was a tough loss for us. Doesn't work that way. That people will keep recruiting him, but I'll say this. I think one key there is when people around him thought he should have delayed the decision. And so it's clear now he committed too early to have that quick of a turnaround. So that's really good news for Texas on that front. It's not like this was a process where, you had to recruit for 6 months and then he decides at the last minute. He already kind of sat back and said, man, maybe I made too quick of a decision here. So that's pretty good news for Texas in this recruitment. But obviously Texas will get him on campus this year. There's still a few months till signing day. Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer, they won't walk away from him. Dan Lanning's not going to walk away from him. But this is a good momentum flip for Texas. We'll see if this helps get Myron Charles back on campus. I've heard things have gone pretty well with Antonio Coleman, the Alabama commitment that's on campus today, came with KJ Lacey. There's Steve Sarkisian, big humans. That this one, and Obviously, Kenny Baker, those guys very excited. That's his first big interior commitment at Texas on the defensive line. So congrats to him. Zane Petty's asking, where's Bobby Burton? Bobby Burton's speaking at the Texas X's event in Tulsa tonight. So Craig Johnson says, recruit through the whistle. People hate it when Texas is losing players. They love it when Texas is getting players. But it remains the same. You got to recruit through the whistle. You got to recruit until December, whether these guys are committed or not. CJ, any other takeaways today? Like, who impressed you physically?
Yeah. Okay, so there was one offer that was extended today by a kid. Gerry, I sent you the photo. I was amazed by this kid that I hadn't heard of him. He has no profile anywhere, under the radar everywhere. And Texas offered on the visit today. That's Max Wright, the 2026 offensive lineman, Maximus Wright, even out of Melissa. Stands 6'7" right now, 290 pounds. Really, really impressive prospect. He had offers from UTSA and UTEP, had been at Plano West earlier, moved over to Melissa in last fall, so didn't get a full football season. This spring, some schools stopped by, offered him immediately. He came up to the school and was offered by the University of Texas and Kyle Flood today. Also, Luke Waffley, the kid out of the Hun School. He can go, Gerry, and I think Texas is in a pretty sneaky spot there. You don't see Texas go up to New Jersey all too much. Sadir Mitchell was the last guy that the Longhorns had landed from the Northeast. He's a guy that I would put on that category right now. Really impressive frame. Listen, I think he holds a soft spot for the Texas Longhorns. He obviously made the trip down here on his own dime to come see Texas the minute the dead period lifted. He has a Texas football at home that he mentioned, he likes to throw around and play with as a kid. But Coach Flood found him early. He stopped by the school this spring, and he reached out to Texas right after the offer and said, listen, when's the next time that I can come down here and see the university, meet you guys in person, see what all the University of Texas entails? I'll come down there and see you guys immediately. And he did. And I think that's really important. Those two really stood out to me in terms of guys physically that look really built. Luke Waffley, really impressive prospect. Jamarian Carlton, another. He has Texas top of his list at the moment. Javian Osborne, also one of the top running backs in the state of Texas, was on campus today. Really, really good time speaking with him about his visit today. I think Texas is in a very strong spot. He spoke about the development of Coach Flood and his running backs, and also where he sees himself fit in this offense. One last thing before I pass it back off to you, Gerry. We heard from probably 4, 5, maybe 6 different recruits today who got to watch the practice. First thing that they said was, it was amazing that it was all player-led. No coaches were out there. No one was really instructing it from a coach's side of things. The players got out there. They understood what they needed to do, and they executed it. And that's really one of the biggest things that I think those players and their families kind of took away from the workouts today. I think Texas did a good job allowing that leadership council that we hear so much about to stand out and kind of showcase what the program and the culture is all about here at Texas.
So I want to say this on Waffle, the linebacker edge out of New Jersey, 6'3 1/4, 244 today on his visit. So really put together. I'll tell you a couple of things I heard from the practice or the workout the guys watched today. I don't know if Brandon Huey's in there. Vernon Broughton, really impressive with his initial punch. I think people are saying he's improved there. Dre Bledsoe looks like he's maybe a little more consistent with that first step is in terms of just that maturity of it and him as a player. Now, these guys got to go do it in games, but that's just a couple of observations that somebody gave me today. I was kind of, I kind of asked something that I don't know. I want to know something I don't know. What did somebody observe on an opinion that I trust? And that's what I got from there. So we'll see what happens. We're getting a lot of questions here. Let's go through some of these questions. Jeff Carey, thanks for the super chat. Way things are going, can we start trading players? I don't know about that. Elijah Perez says, what does it say about Kenny Baker? Put some of the concerns about his quality rest. Look, I mean, I'm really fair about this stuff. I think Kenny Baker came in late. He came in from the NFL in late January. He hadn't made evaluations on any of these kids. He hadn't been recruiting any of these kids at all for any period of time. So he's essentially comes from the NFL. It's not like he had come from Alabama. He had gone from Western Kentucky to the NFL, so he didn't have prior relationships recruiting any of these kids. So he came in, got a late start, had to hit the road, had to try to build relationships quick. I think that's why Johnny Nansen also needs some credit for the Josiah Sharma recruitment, because Johnny Nansen, coming from Arizona, Johnny Nansen was the one that recruits the state of California heavily for Texas. He's the one that went to Folsom and made the offer. Then Kenny Baker saw him in person. So there was a chain of events there, and Nansen has 2 decades worth of recruiting connections in the state of California. So Kenny Baker, I think Kenny Baker, I go back to whether you get the kids, sometimes the kids you may not get tell you more about a coach than the ones they do get. I go back to the first conversation I had with Zion Williams about Kenny Baker. And what Zion told me at Lufkin High that day was Kenny Baker gave him some rapid fire questions, didn't give him time to answer. He said it was different than anything else any coach had kind of approached him with on those visits when coaches could be on the road. But he said it made him really think, made him think quick, made him react quick. And he said he didn't even realize it while he was asking the questions, but Kenny Baker had a notepad and was writing down everything just writing it down while he was looking eye to eye with Zion. And so he said that was just different. And he said that impressed him. Doesn't mean every kid goes to that school. But that was always stuck out with me. I think Kenny Baker's got a good message. I think Kenny Baker does a good job with the cut tape that here's what you're good at. Here's what you need to work on. Here's some of the things we're teaching guys. This is how it could apply to you. I think he does a good job. Not that other coaches don't, but he's a young coach. So you got to give him time to get his feet wet. Let him really dig in on evaluations, make sure these guys fit his personality. I really, CJ, I really believe at the interior defensive line position, the players and your personalities are really big, because everybody has to maximize guys all the time. But man, the guys that have to play with a high motor, you better be able to really get to on a snap to snap basis in practice. You have to keep the motor going. You have to continue to be able to make these guys and motor run and push them. That in that position, you got to recruit the guys that you can get that out of. I don't think you collect talent in that position at all. I think you build a team from within that position, but you better have guys that you know you can get it out of.
Yeah. I was going to say, I spoke to 2026 Bastrop defensive lineman Tiki Hola today, Gerry, and he kind of mentioned that exact same thing, right? This was really one of his first opportunities outside of the spring to see Kenny Baker in that Texas unit, kind of in a meeting room, right? Kind of see what they're like together. And he mentioned one of the biggest things for him is just, what is Coach Baker like? How does he get the most out of that defensive line room? And there's some new bodies in that room since he last visited, right? You look at Jermaine Lolay, you look at Bill Norton, guys who have been around the block and, kind of putting together their last campaign before their college careers come to an end. One of the big things that Tiki mentioned was, I've seen a lot of schools, I've seen a lot of coaches. Coach Baker gets enough out of his guys that makes them think if they're even, if they've got anything left, basically. So I was impressed by that. It carries on what you were saying about getting the most out of defensive linemen. That's a spot you absolutely need to have it. Kenny Baker's done a pretty good job at that so far. The early returns from recruits at that position have certainly taken notice. And I think, we've talked about 2025 and what the 25 class will look like inside of the for Texas in the defensive lineman room. Geez, long day out there. I'm sorry, guys. But 26 and 27s are taking notice. Kyron Haywood out of Denton Geyer, another interior defensive lineman, 6'1", 260 at the moment, high upside, high motor. Another guy taking note of what Kenny Baker has been doing in that Texas line room. His first stop after receiving an offer first week of June was back to Texas, to give you an idea of how interested he is with Kenny Baker, the Texas staff, and of course the University of Texas and the football program itself.
Kim asks, we'll follow up on that real quick. Actually, I'll hit this one first. LH, is Josiah Sharma a 5-star? He is not ranked that high. He's a borderline 4-star prospect. I'm of the belief that he's a 4-star plus kid, which for me, my years doing this means top 150 level prospect in the country. Let's see where the senior film takes him, though. You just never know with these guys. He's going from Inderkrum to Folsom. He's going to one of the very best programs in the state of California. Let's see how much that pulls out of him as a senior. I think this is getting he's getting a little taste of all this from junior year of football to the recruiting process. Different player, more confident in that Folsom offseason program. Let's see what he looks like as a senior coming up here. Doug Haywood, what's the latest on Jonah Williams? I heard the visit went really well. There was a report out there, and I'm not calling anybody out, but that he actually met with Jim Schlossnagle today. The Texas baseball staff's on the road recruiting. They're not in Austin. They did have a FaceTime. Obviously, he'd met Schloss before when he was at A&M. But I heard the visit went well. He's going to LSU tomorrow. August 14th decision. That one's set when he'll announce his decision. Texas, LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, Oregon, I think are your 4 schools there. I mean, there's a 5th school in the mix, but I think those are your four schools there. The interesting thing with Jonah Williams, as this has played out, throughout his recruitment, some people started putting in picks for Oklahoma in January. That's not happening. Then it went to A&M picks. Then it's gone to Oregon picks. So you always take that with a grain of salt. But the thing about this family is none of those kids have signed with colleges far from home. So just something to tuck away there as this thing gets closer to the decision time. Maybe he'll be the first. But his older brother who went MLB had committed to Texas. Then I think ended up signing with A&M, but went pro baseball. I think he has another older brother that's playing junior college baseball in Texas. So none of these kids have ventured. They haven't signed with colleges far away from home. He'd be the first. Can it happen? Maybe. Where Texas is truly at, I think we'll know more after this weekend where they're truly at with that. I think there'll be some chatter about it, but I'm not sure Texas knows where they're truly at with this until early next week. Tiki Hola, is he the best 2026 prospect, D-tackle prospect in Texas? He's going to be the highest ranked prospect in the 26 class. That's why his recruitment is important for Texas. It helps he's a Syntex kid at Bastrop. The D-line right now in the state is not as good as 25 class. Not a lot of depth. Not saying some guys aren't going to come up this season because the high school season's about a month away. But right now on the surface, not a deep class at defensive tackle in the state of Texas. So Tiki Hola, his recruitment's a big one for Texas because they're a good one close to home.
He's been to Austin 4 times since January 20th. I actually asked him today, Gerry. He went to Texas for the first time January 20th for the junior day. Texas didn't have Kenny Baker hired on staff just yet. So today he was not only getting time to spend with Kenny Baker in that defensive line room, but Johnny Nansen, the man that actually had that first kind of connect with him, was able to kind of build more of that relationship. He said the first stop that Sarkisian and Coach Nansen made in the wintertime was to Bastrop to see him and 2027 quarterback Weston Nielsen. So not only does he have a great relationship with Kenny Baker, but Johnny Nansen, Steve Sarkisian, it's a full defensive room effort at the moment for Tiki Hola. I think he's the best 26 in-state defensive lineman I've seen so far. Of course, to your point, Gerry, things could change after another year of football. But he's been to Texas 4 times right now, and he's up to 290 pounds. They weighed him in today. He was up around 270 in the spring. So that body's undergone some work. 6'3", 290 sounds a little bit better going into his junior year. I'd say this is a guy that, like Sharma, has a future over the nose, and at 3 tech has enough versatility and flexibility with his hips, his knees, and the rest of his lower back. So big prospect, one that Texas would love to keep home. You can tell by the way that they've had him on campus so often so far over this calendar year.
Ryan Nelson asked Sharma versus DeAndre Robinson. Sharma high ceiling, probably higher ceiling. I think DeAndre Robinson is the talent too. Now all these guys have to go maximize their ability. Sharma's a little bit bigger, broader, bigger frame guy. That I can tell you with just as much or not more initial quickness, second step quickness, and closing ability on the football. I mean, look, DeAndre Robinson's really talented too. I mean, I know Texas. He's hated by Texas fans these days, but both those guys are really talented football players. I mean, what I've always said about Josiah Sharma is this: if you want to know how talented Josiah Sharma is, when Kalen DeBoer leaves Washington and takes the job at Alabama, You're now in the deep South where defensive linemen are plentiful. And you're at the University of Alabama, and obviously they have a top 2 ranked class. You can get a lot of really good players on the defensive line at Alabama, obviously, no matter who the coach is, if you have good strategy and sound recruiting staff. But for Alabama to still have him, 1, 2, 3, top 3 guy, maybe one on their board, says a lot about how talented they think Josiah Sharma is. So maybe more than my opinion, Alabama, when Kalen DeBoer got that job, he could recruit anybody in the Deep South. He went right back to the Sacramento, Folsom area and got Sharma on campus 3 times. That tells you how talented Josiah Sharma is. All right, guys. Well, this is it for today. We want to do a little special live stream here with Josiah Sharma decommitting from Oregon, committing to the University of Texas. Obviously, a big day for Steve Sarkisian, big humans, Kenny Baker, Texas defensive line coach, Johnny Nansen, who is pivotal and key in that recruitment. But Josiah Sharma flips his commitment from Oregon to Texas. Longhorns on the board at defensive line. For CJ Vogel, I'm Gerry Hamilton. Thanks very much for joining in, and we'll talk to you on Coffee and Football in the Morning. We'll try much more on this commitment and the recruiting day today for the Horns.